All right, folks, welcome to this episode of the podcast for BABuddy.ca and BAMethod.in. Remember, BABuddy.ca is for the folks who would like to learn more about business analysis in English, whereas BAMethod.in is for folks who would like to understand business analysis in Hindi. Do not forget to check out our website, BAMethod.in and BABuddy.ca. Now, talking about today's guest, she is truly an industry veteran. And when I say that, she has been associated with the finance industry or credit union industry for the last 35 years. I've had the pleasure of working alongside her for about a year or so, and I could not think of anyone who is better than her to answer today's question for this podcast, which is, do you know you may already be a BA? So welcome to the podcast, Karen. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. And it's funny, Chinmay, when you said where I've been around so long, it's like, okay, I started when I was 9.
I did. I mean, I had to go through a LinkedIn profile twice, Karen, because I could not believe that. Folks, Karen currently serves as the business practice lead for League Data since a long time. She has been a project manager. She has been an operations manager. She has been an account executive. I would like to start with how your journey was from an account executive. How did you, or when did you realize that you can get into business analysis? And did you always have that in mind, or did you learn as you went through your career?
When I think about that, Chinmay, I think like, oh my, like what a journey. Like I've always liked figuring things out, and always questioned if there was a better way when I was doing things. Just kind of looking for a more streamlined path to complete what I was doing. And then it's funny because unbeknownst to me, I was creating user stories. And then as an executive assistant, I wanted to streamline job responsibilities so that I could be more productive. And then in the role since being an executive assistant, I was always inquisitive and always digging in. And I believe because of always asking the why and digging in, it contributed greatly to the success in my role today. And I'm sure everybody, you're doing different things when you're working, and it's like, okay, why am I doing it this way? And then is there a different way I could be doing this? Like, it's really cool. Like you don't even realize you're doing it, but you are.
For sure. I mean, back when we were working together, it was so every day it was a different day because. You had to ask why something is happening or why we have to do something and why we have to do it in a certain way and not any other way. So I completely agree with you that it is always a new challenge, and that's what keeps it interesting, I guess.
For me, I always feel that like for the business analyst role, like I feel that the key skills and qualities required are the willingness to dig. But in saying that, not too deep, as it's really easy to go down the rabbit hole. And it's just really important to have good communication skills, like active listening skills, to ensure we have an understanding of business objective. And then two, just like critical and analytical thinking also comes into play in the BA role. And then there's also like negotiation skills come in handy. And just thinking of scope creep on a project can happen, and we just need to be able to differentiate between a want and a need. Like organizational skills are a very important part of being a BA, because there's so much stuff going on. But as far as like, I always see it as I guess never limit yourself, because when people have a willingness to learn and to dig, like it's kind of like the sky's the limit. And it's up to each individual to decide that path.
Was there a particular challenging situation where your project management skills helped you during your term as a business analyst?
Definitely. Because any project can be challenging if you're not organized. And it's following a path from A to Z and just mapping out your navigation to get to the end goal successfully. And just also realizing that there's no such thing as status quo. And you get a bit of that both too, like from project management skills, and just because requirements can shift as you move through a project. and new items could come up as you're working through the projects. It's being able to distinguish between a need and nice to haves, and then
Right.
and just think about what's needed to be successful. That's always the priority. The nice to haves come after. And again, I mentioned scope creep again and I just say beware of scope creep, because that can throw off your timelines.
Are there myths that you've heard of?
Oh,
As
for about the role of a business analyst.
yes, yes,
This is funny because one response I encountered, because somebody asked me one day, they said what are you? And I said I was a business analyst, and they were like, oh, you must be a number cruncher. And then I remember saying well, if you mean crunching through requirements, sure. Which started a conversation on requirements for what? Because
right.
business analyst, I don't not everybody is clear on what a business analyst is.
Yes,
And if you
sure.
haven't been working with a business analyst or close to one, it just leaves this whole thing open. But yeah, that was one of the things that I came across when I said business analyst. It was oh, number cruncher.
Right. Kiran, I remember speaking with you. Even when you're off work, you're kind of thinking of how to do things better tomorrow or the next day or the next week. Even if
Yeah.
you're not working, it is always something that goes on at the back of your mind, and you keep
Mhm.
wondering, how do I better what I've done so far?
For sure. It's funny because it's like a constant in my head, because you do so many different things in the business analyst role, and sometimes you run across different things and you're working on this or that, and it's okay, there's got to be a way to streamline this.
Yes.
I'm always looking at different ways to streamline things because there's so much.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different programs that are really beneficial for helping in that. Chinmay, I'm sure you remember Reich.
Yes.
Reich is really good for documenting stuff and following along, especially with things with deadlines. So that's one of the programs I like to use because it really helps.
For sure. Yeah. So, folks, I think there's a free trial available for Reich. You can go through it. Simple. You can just navigate through, understand how it works, what it's used for, how you can use it in your organization, or how you can just mention it in your resume. If you're a fresher, you've not worked on any tools, this is one of the tools that can help you differentiate yourselves or your resume from the others. So Reich is one of the items. There's Trello, there's the Kanban board, which everybody talks about. There are so many tools that you can look at, and again, you don't have to subscribe to them. You can just subscribe to a trial version, explore it, understand it, so that if somebody asks you what this does, you have that. At least you'll be able to mention a couple of lines about that. Karen, can you share a success story where your skills as a business analyst made a significant impact? I'm sure there would be many of them. Could you think of a particular one that you can say, yes, my skills as a BA really made an impact to this? It could be a deliverable, it could be a project, whatever it may be.
So you're looking for a memorable, a success story where my skills made it.
Yes.
Okay. So again, in this, for a success story, for me again, it's all about being organized. And I know you've heard me say that already a few times about being organized, but with that in mind, within a new project that I've been working on, you receive lots of questions, and tracking those questions can become really time consuming by the day because you just keep getting more and more. And with that in mind, I created a document in Reich, and I know you heard me talk about Reich earlier, and that's a project management application service provider where you can efficiently manage projects. You can also collaborate in it, and it helps hit your deadlines. And so that it was accessible to all staff, so we could share our knowledge on the Q&A, because as you know, it's impossible to know everything, but with your team, you all cover off the items. So sharing knowledge with each other, to me, is very important, because it's the teamwork behind everything we do. And teamwork is like, it's really important because it's kind of like
Right.
no one person can cover off everything themselves. So it's just having like again, I'm blessed. I have a wonderful team that I work with. And between us all, we cover off all the different areas.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it's so crucial that this role, even though you are working in a silo, it's equally important that you are a part of the puzzle. As a BA, you have to make sure that you are able to work in a silo at the same time in a team environment. You are flexible enough to do that give and take. If you talk about people with diverse backgrounds, somebody could be working as a. I've seen people who have worked as a doctor and who has now moved on to business analysis. There will be certain transferable skills that will make them suitable for business analysis, and I think we've talked about it before. Organizational skills are one of them. Time management, negotiation skills, that as you mentioned earlier. Are there anything else that people can feel confident about, that all right, I have this skill, I can at least think about transitioning my career into business analysis?
Okay. One of my thoughts on that, Chinmay, is for individuals, like, do you find yourself asking why a lot in what you do today? And are you always looking at what you're working on today and wondering how you can improve it? What steps you need to get there? Those steps to get there are requirements for success. And to me, that's a BA skill that you may not even realize you have.
So basically, if you're curious enough, if you know when and how to ask the right questions and to the right people, that is something which can certainly help you with business analysis. If you look at your business analysis tenure, it's about 10 years. Before then, you had multiple jobs. Was it something that you planned that you'll stick to the domain?
For me, it's kind of like that's a tough one. Like, it's because my path, it's because I started with the credit union system way back in, oh my, like I think it was like 1990, and went through all these different positions, but I always wanted to learn.
Right.
And to me, it's, if you can learn one new thing every day, and it's just kind of inquisitive minds, and because of that want of learning, that's what kind of got me where I am today. Because it's like, you know how you're working on something and then it's like, okay, and then you can do it, and it's not challenging your mind, I guess, for lack of a better word. And it's
Right.
with the business analyst side of things, it's always new. Like every day, like it's always new. You're always learning new skills, even when you have your business analyst skills, you're always getting new skills every day. So for me, it's not something that I planned. If I look back even 10 years ago, I didn't, at that time, I didn't plan to be a business analyst, but with the combination of all the skills that I've learned throughout my career, that's what got me to where I am today. And it's just that willingness to learn. And
Right.
it's just like, I guess, think of yourself as a tree. Like, there's always new roots growing every day. And that's kind of like
Sure.
our brains. So
For sure. Yeah.
yeah, so it wasn't planned. It was just kind of, I morphed into being a business analyst.
And I think this is so true for so many people. That
And kind of too, like for any aspiring business analysts, my biggest thing I would say, believe in yourself, because we all have a lot of skills. We might just not have labeled some of them as BA skills.
Right.
And it's just kind of like, be an active listener and listen to understand. Like, that's really important. And then
Sure.
and just
Absolutely.
and sometimes, and it sounds funny when you say that, but that is like That is
That
a
is true.
skill, like that we train ourselves to listen to understand, not listen to answer. Because if we're not
Yeah,
listening to understand, we're already formulating our response in our heads. So we're missing like
for
important
sure.
aspects of that. And again, it's just like communicate a lot and understand what the goal is. Because always remember, like gathering requirements for what you're aiming to achieve is really important, and it's through all those conversations that you're gathering that. And it's
Right.
just like, as a BA, you want to understand the objective, and of course be a team player and have lots of collaboration. Like, and adaptability is really important too, along with analytical and critical thinking. Like, but to me, the biggest thing, it's always believe in yourself, because we have to
For sure.
believe in ourselves first before we can go to the next step.
The qualities that you mentioned before, adaptability, thinking on your feet, making sure that you listen and not hear things. Because, as I said, if you're just there to answer the query and are not really listening,
Yeah.
you might miss out on the actual value that you want to deliver. And that's what the stakeholders are looking for.
And here's a fun to do. The next time you're having a conversation, ask yourself, are you already formulating your response in your head before the person that you're talking to is finished talking?
If, if,
Yeah.
if the answer to that question is yes, you need to reconfigure your thought process.
Well, that was just one of those kind of like to do homework things I thought I'd throw in there. And it's funny, Chinmay, because you said if you're formulating your answer, you're wrong. I wouldn't say that it's wrong, because I think at one time or another we've all done that. It's just
Yes, for
making
sure.
us more conscious of, oh wow, like I'm really not listening to what they're saying, and then it's like, oh, but it just helps us, because if you think of it that way, if you're in your next conversation, I'm sure some will get a aha moment, because we don't always realize we're doing that. But when you think of it consciously, like, am I doing this? That's when it's like, oh, there's a take home for people.
Kieran, going back to your exciting and amazing career, 35 years. I hope you don't mind me stressing on that, but
No,
that's the
I'm far from 60 yet. Like I said, I started when I was 9.
yes, that's one of the highlights from this podcast.
Yeah,
One of
Karen
the
started when she was 9.
one of the youngest business analysts ever.
Yeah, exactly.
During your tenure, Kieran, you must have seen so many changes, starting at in the 90s. Even the MS Office has changed so much. Yeah,
Bell
we are
bottoms
Windows
and
10,
flared tops.
all of it, and the Y2K problem happened when you were like,
Yeah.
so looking at all these transitions and changes, you've been able to adapt to them. You've seen it so many times.
Yeah, and for me, it's the realization, like in life, everything evolves, and I don't see it any differently for the BA role, like, because
Right.
like life evolved, people evolve, so do projects, like so do our
Right.
skills, and the biggest thing is just being adaptable to change, because
Sure.
even how we do things today, in 6 months, that could be different. Like, I could be doing different things I do today differently in 6 months. And it's just too, like, always expect the unexpected.
Sure.
Because a big part of life and BA role and other roles is we have to be adaptable to change, because that's so
True.
important. Because sometimes too we do things a certain way and we want to guard those things and be like, no, like this is how I'm doing it. But sometimes too you could ask somebody a question, well, why do you do it that way? And you could get an answer like, well, that's how it was always done. So it's just getting yourself out of that mindset, because just because something was done the same for 5 years doesn't mean it
Yeah.
has to be done that same way 5 years later. There are always like different ways to do things, and it doesn't mean like my way is the right way or somebody else's is. It's just you have those conversations, be it with your stakeholders or your team, because it's just, again, be adaptable to change, and
Sure.
just keep in mind, like, there's no such thing as status quo. Like I always look at it like especially in today's world, status quo doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, yes, for sure. And I think what you just said made me think about how you can think like a child when you're a BA.
Yes.
Oftentimes, my daughter asks me questions which are so basic in nature, which I've never thought about. And the only answer that you can think about at that moment of time is either I've never thought about that or I don't know. Okay, and when you mention changes, I think AI is going to disrupt everything, the way we look at things, be it testing, be it development, be it analysis, be it process mapping. What do you think BA would look like, let's say 5 years from now?
It's funny, Chinmay. I think we had this conversation before
Yes.
about
Yes.
AI, because for me, I'd probably be one of the ones that would stay away from AI because I want to use my brain. Because if I
And
became too reliant on AI, and I'm sure there's really good things in AI for different things, but I don't want to stop thinking and
I understand.
learning.
Yes.
And for me, yes, AI has its benefits and everything, but I still like to think the BA position will still be like, say, 90% human and maybe 10%
Yep.
AI with helping maybe with research on different things. And this is just my thought, but I can't imagine, because you still need that human aspect of everything.
Mhm.
And BAs have so many like different teams that they meet with and collaborate so much. Like, how
Right.
is AI going to do collaboration with stakeholders and people? Like, you still have to have that human factor. And as long as I'm in a BA role, I'm like, I might use AI for reference for something, but it would be a very low percentage of what I do because I love to
Right.
learn too much to let somebody, like a machine, do it for me. That takes
Right.
away the fun of learning. When I think of 5 years down the road, like I said, I still like to think that the BA would be very integral part of that because
True.
it's just all that collaboration and get how does AI gather requirements on a project and do different things, and how would AI have collaboration meetings with stakeholders and all that kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure it has lots of benefits too,
For sure.
but
Yeah.
I still like to think that it would be the human factor for not just these roles but lots of different roles and different positions, because AI can't be that human factor. So,
Completely agree. And the role that we are in, human contact, even if it could be virtual, it could be face to face, is one of the most important aspects. Before we move on, I have a couple of questions. Two truths, two truths and a lie.
okay.
So, first one, first scenario goes: I've discovered my passion for problem solving before I started working as a BA. The second one is I've been asked the question, why do we even need a BA? The third one says I've never used the phrase, can you see my screen?
I would have to say the third one is the lie. Funny because you hear that a lot in different meetings. It's like, can you see my screen?
I must confess, Karen, I have tried to find more ways to say the statement. I mean, some other phrase that I could use, but I keep coming back to, can you see my screen?
Yeah, no, that's a good one. But that was an easy one for picking out the lie, Chinmay.
Yes, I guess, yes. The second one talks about I've once worked on a project where it needed zero negotiation to reach a solution. With this one, you have to pick the biggest lie.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. The second one talks about I've convinced a client that cloud computing involved actual clouds. And the third one talks about I've never been in a situation where all the changes were not delivered on time. So you have to pick the
And
biggest
I'm
lie.
supposed to pick the biggest lie because they're all lies. um, it's
Yeah.
funny because I'm thinking the first one with zero changes, because sometimes you could convince, depending on who you're talking to and what kind of a day they're having, you could maybe convince somebody about the clouds.
That's true. That is doable.
Because some that aren't around technology at all. But yes, I'll go
Sure.
to the very first one being the biggest lie. The second one could
Okay.
be fool me once, but you'd never fool them again.
All right. Karen, the last two questions for today.
Okay.
You have to say the first word that comes to your mind. The first one is, if Scope Creep was a movie villain, who would they be?
Cruella de Vil.
All right, that was a good one.
Don't ask me why she popped into my mind, but you said the first one.
Yes, fair enough. Okay, this one is good. The last one for today. When I say agile, what's the first snack that comes to my mind?
Did you say the first snack?
Yes.
Mini wheats.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay. Okay, this was interesting. Folks, this is the end of the podcast for today. This was Karen Beer, an industry veteran. She has been in and around the industry for years. There's so much to learn from her. I hope you like the podcast. Do not forget to check it on babuddy.ca and bamethod.in. And it will also be uploaded on the YouTube channel for BA Buddy. This is the end of the podcast. Please keep coming back. Thank you very much. See you around.